Good evening and welcome to the first qualifying session of the 2018 F2 season. The One Make Championship finally returns after a long off season. There's no more training, no more testing, no more speculation. It's finally time for some answers as the new order emerges under the bright lights of Bahrain. It's qualifying for round one of the 2018 F2 Championship. I'm your commentator, Alex Jakes. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a look at Antonio Fuoco, the man that 1 year ago, racing for a very similarly liveried team, managed to put it on the front row, only to lose that position. But it is a circuit, this place, that the drivers all enjoy. They'll enjoy it today with a brand new Dallara-built car, the F2 2018, looking wonderful under the floodlights. The circuit, though, it is a combination of high speed and sweeps, heavy braking. It's 5.4 kilometers, 3.3 miles, and this mega talented field are going to take to it in just a few minutes time. The format remains unchanged from last season. 30 minutes, unlimited laps, and 4 points available for pole position. And it will be the first pole position as we have a look at Sean Lacey. We see him at plenty of races supporting his son Giuliano, who goes once again in GP3 with Trident. That season starts in a few weeks' time in Barcelona, but it's time to get the first points-paying session underway. The queue has formed. Interesting to see that the Russian time there has got the medium tyres on. You can see the majority of the field going out on the yellow-walled soft tyre. The drivers have had 6 days of testing, and now we're about to find out whether the practice pace from earlier is representative as we get a green light at the end of the pit lane, and Santino Ferrucci of Trident leads them out. He did not have the session that he would have wanted to start the season, but the third car in your picture, Arjun Maini there, number 16 for Trident, he very much did. Top of the timing pages with a 1:44.5. This new car, slightly heavier than last year's, as we go on board with someone who is absolutely going to be in the fight for the championship, we expect. Will he be in the fight for pole position today? It's Lando Norris driving for Carlin. He is, of course, as well, the McLaren junior driver. So as the drivers all find themselves some track pace, and we see Alexander Albon, who looked very comfortable indeed earlier on. So let's have a look then at this brand new car for 2018. Here's last year's version. You can see the higher nose. And now we've got a lower nose. We've got the halo, more downforce provided by the rear wing, and the engine as well, moving from a 4-litre V8 to a 3.4-litre turbocharged V6. It's a different sound, it's a different look for Formula 2 in 2018, but the teams expect the overtaking to be magnificent. And one thing doesn't change, you've got to be fast on these soft tyres. Really interesting to see, though, that Artem Markelov has gone out on the medium. And this is a racetrack that can throw up surprises. Remember last year with Charles Leclerc and that pit stop in a sprint race? You'd never see that anywhere else. But right now we have drivers out maybe to set qualifying laps on the medium compound already. Strategy coming into play. That is fascinating to see from Markelov, who didn't have the easiest of times earlier on in practice, which of course was far earlier in the day. There's Sergio Sette Camara in the other. Carlin, he went very well as well earlier on. Third fastest, the Brazilian driver, a race winner last year in the sprint in Belgium, and I can't think of a track that is further away from what we've got than Belgium. So interesting to see Markelov peeling in. Ferrucci goes to weave left and right and generate heat into the tyres and the brakes, which you need to for these Formula 2 cars. Here's the highest finisher from last year's championship, the runner-up, Artem Markelov. New crash helmet for this year. That's a great shot. Halo not in the way at all as he meets his champion team from 2017, Russian time. And so he's not going to set any time on the mediums. So that was just to get out there. I wonder if they were trying some systems checks. We did see him in the pit lane for an awfully long time in terms of the opening session of the season, which was practice. that's more what we expected. The soft rubber, the faster compound of the two. Remember, in the feature race tomorrow, they must run both compounds, and there's a mandatory pit stop. There's an optional pit stop in the sprint race, but I'm not sure we will see that again. So Markelov in the car, doing something slightly different. Remember, what we traditionally see is a few warm-up laps, and then a fast run back into the pit, second set of soft tyres, and then maybe someone goes in the gap. We did see that occasionally. Last year's qualifying session, we did not see the true speed of everyone in the field due to the fact that there was a big accident at the end. We hope to get uninterrupted running, and so two contenders if you go off the practice times from earlier on. Arjun Maini, fastest of anyone so far this weekend. That is going, he hopes to continue. Fantastic shots at the rear of the car there. And we check in with Max Günther deploying DRS, 2 DRS zones around this racetrack, and you can see they are running. Wow, that is so spectacular under the lights. Wonderful. One of 2 qualifying sessions we will run this year in Formula 2 under the lights. The first one being here, and then the next one you're going to wait all the way to the end of the season when we conclude this campaign in Abu Dhabi. So Maini was very, very chipper earlier in the weekend. He was very pleased. Remember, he's making the graduation from GP3 to Formula 2. We've heard in the past that can be so difficult for a driver because they've got so much more downforce. The braking zones, of course, come way in. And then we've got Maini, and as he comes into the first turn, going for his first timed lap, and of course Maini is one of 4 GP3 graduates this year. The other 3 were the top 3 from the championship. Nairei Fukuzumi, and then in second place we had Jack Aitken. The winner was George Russell. Aitken and Russell are in the same team, so that is going to be interesting. They were last year, they've continued that, and Arjun Maini about to get a time on the board nice and early. Everyone out there at this stage, so slightly slow start to the session, but now with the tyres and brakes up to temperature, can Maini recreate on the soft compound tyre what we saw on the mediums earlier on? He will be hoping so. Trident will be hoping so. They did not have a very easy campaign last year. No win for them. Their last win at this level back in GP2 with Luca Giotto in 2016. Heavy braking now into the sweeping part of the racetrack. This is where the drivers say this car really comes alive in the fast sweeping turns because they've got more downforce. How much is Maini going to take? Norris on a very quick lap time as well. He's just set the fastest first sector of anyone. And Russell going very well in the middle part of the track. So, those are the 3 times at the bottom of your picture. We're going to finish the lap with Arjun Maini, our fastest man through practice. And Norris going wide and being followed as well by the Trident at the top of your picture. So everyone off at the final turn. Is there some oil down there? Because everyone seems to be struggling horribly. Maini went off, Norris went off, Russell went off, but he's still fastest. And they're going wide through there, but that just shows you this is a dusty, dirty track, and even with all of that Formula 1 running, they were still pushing to the very end. It's a heavy car, and it was a heavy car understeering in the final corner. So we've just had Norris go off the road in front of us, and then off went Arjun Maini, all 4 wheels off the road, lap ruined, disappointment for him. This is what happened a few moments before. Lando Norris, we saw this earlier in practice. You just get a few inches too far to the left-hand side and it sucks you in to the runoff area, and that is all over for those guys. Not the fastest they could manage, and that's not really what Markelov would want at this stage. So he's just let his former teammate Luca Giotto, who has moved to Trident, weaving away. Now, see, they're either running that car very low indeed to create the white smoke at the back, or there might be some sort of issue. Just keeping an eye on Markelov purely because the amount of time that we saw him in the pit lane earlier on in practice. Russell, Albon, Camara, Norris, and this is Markelov's teammate, one of 7 rookies in the field, Tadasuke Makino, part of the Honda Junior program and negotiating his way through turn 11. Now, a lot of people expect great things from Prema this year. Sean Gelael moving to that team from Arden. Gelael, who was able to take a second place in GP2. That was with the Campos team. Then he moved in Formula 2 to the Arden team. Now he finds himself with last year's cream of the crop in terms of the Drivers' Championship. But of course, Russian Time beat them in the teams. Not what he would want at the moment. One time in the top 10 last year. In complete contrast to George Russell's 4 pole positions in GP3 in 2017. One of the top 5 promoted for the title. A lot of people think that he is going to be in the mix, along with Norris, along with Markelov, along with De Vries. But he's made a mistake on his first lap. Can he get it slowed down? Smoke out the back, flames from the rear, and all action now, we hope, from Russell. And it's always interesting to see how the reigning GP3 champion can adjust to Formula 2 machinery if they make that leap. Remember how well Charles Leclerc did it last year. He vaulted himself all the way up to Formula 1, and he is now with Sauber, of course. That's exactly what Russell wants to do. That's exactly what Norris wants to do. Russell improving. Norris, though, absolutely rapid in the first sector of the lap, a 32.2. Really impressive from him. He was rapid earlier on, second fastest in our order. He seems to have good pace on both compounds of tyres. So this is going to be fascinating to see whether it continues. In previous years, we've seen the soft tyre go away at the end of the lap. That was even an issue last year in Formula 1. You remember when Hamilton couldn't keep his tyres alive as long as Bottas could, and that led Bottas to pole position. You just see a little bit of hesitation there, just the front not wanting to turn into turn 14. So Norris, he's setting a fast time, but he doesn't exactly look glued to the racetrack, and that's what you're going to get with a new car. They're going to find chunks of time across the start of this new season. A little bit of adjustment through the corner. That was pretty conservative because he went off last time, up through the gears, building up to 190 miles an hour. Here comes Lando Norris, and there's no improvement, and we saw why with those understeery moments. So not what he needed. So Russell does not fancy completing that lap. He comes into the pits. So here we've got Fuoco over the line. Fuoco in 10th position. And then Alexander Albon gets himself up to second place. And look how close he was. Not too far away at all. 10 thousandths of a second between him and provisional pole. But Russell going off the road, but still setting the fastest time. Here's Ralph Boschung. It's another driver switching team. 9 drivers are switching team, and he is another driver to get slightly wide into the final corner.
I did a mistake in the last corner. So, box.
Not a lot of emotion from Enzo. He's race engineer there. So Boschung goes back. We've got Sergio Sette Camara in 3rd place, ahead of his teammate Lando Norris, but we saw his second lap not so good. Of course, there was a mistake, so Norris unable at this stage to put together the ultimate lap time that he must know he is capable of. As a result, we've got his teammate ahead. Remember, he's a race winner. He's a hugely capable driver. He's 1 turn away from winning in Macau last year. So do not write off Sergio Sette Camara. Okay, who's having a good session? Who's having a bad session? As we go into the lull, we're having a very bad session indeed is Sean Gelael. Louis Delatraz right now, his personal best in Formula 2 is 3rd, but you look past that 3rd, and he very rarely ventured into the top 10 last year. 6th place would be a great start to the year, and this is why we love racing at night. Look at the glowing brake discs at the back of Alexander Albon. Another driver changing teams. It's only a 1-race deal. That is really something special. Why we love racing under the lights. Right, Makino now. He's up against a really, really tough customer in terms of his teammate, but he's got up to 8th position. His teammate down in 17th. So not what he would need at all. And I don't think anyone in the pit lane would have predicted that at the start of the weekend, but Markelov does not seem to be as happy in this new car as he was before. Remember, in the last race of last year, Markelov becoming only the fourth driver to score a pole position in the season. George Russell currently about to follow up his excellent campaign last year in GP3 with a pole position, but we know this track is improving all the time, and we know, and it's interesting, Markelov elects to be the driver to go in the gap. Now, sometimes this works, and sometimes it doesn't, but it leaves the driver completing his lap right now with a nervy moment. He's just trying something different. This has not been the sort of weekend that a driver at his 5th consecutive year at this level. 3 for GP2. 1, of course, and now for F2, and now into a second season of F2, negotiating nicely with a personal best, a 32.7. The ultimate that we have seen so far is a 32.2 in the first part of the lap. That was done by Lando Norris earlier in this session. So that shows you he's losing 0.5 of a second already. Look how close it is as well, between 15th, just over a second between 15th and 1st, and that's with everyone having a little bit of a hairy moment at the final corner as well. Markelov needs to find some time in this part of the racetrack. He was the race winner here last year by using superb tyre management. But this car is heavier. A third of that is the halo. A third of that is the new engine components, and then there's extra safety features on the car. That might be why we're seeing the drivers at the moment unable to dial out that understeer. Markelov needs a tidy turn 15. Final turn of the racetrack. How wide's he going? A little bit of a wiggle there. Markelov flat to the floor, making the final gear changes on this lap. Where can this lap put him? Can it put him into the top 10? He stays almost unbelievably in 17th position. And that is an enormous shock for a driver of his capabilities. 5 times a race winner in 2017. So this is on board in the first sector of the lap. We've just gone through turn 4, now into 5 and 6. And look at that, that is a nightmare oversteer through the sweeping part of the lap, and then we're already into turn 8. That did not look pleasant on board at all for Markelov. And then we've got, you see the car bottoming out there, sparks, a little bit of smoke. That's not from the engine, that's the underside. And of course, flames from the back of the car. That is not going to get old to look at as we go through this year. Wonderful stuff under the lights. So another driver trying to improve after a difficult opening part of this qualifying session is Maney. He's still 5th. He's still 5th, so he's got good speed, but very slow into turn number 1 there. So he's just beginning to prepare. Tyre preparation, really important. A word there that the drivers can change a little bit more in the car this year with extra buttons on the steering wheel. Remember what we heard from Charles Leclerc when he went from Formula 2 to Formula 1 last year. They couldn't really change anything, so they've brought in a new steering wheel, and that gives the driver an ability to change the setup of their car. It is up to the teams what those switches can do. And at the moment, Roy Nissany, who is another one of the rookies in the field, the Israeli driver making his debut with the Campos team, finds himself in 19th. It does not look, let's look out of the window here and see what's going on with Sean Galeo. Still a lot of technical support staff around the Indonesian driver's car. It's car number 3 this year with Prema, and they continue to try and get him out there. Nissany just being shown where he needs to improve. Santino Ferrucci is an effervescent character out of the car, but at the moment he will be extremely disappointed to find himself in 15th when his teammate is up there in 5th. Both Tridents this year have the connection to the Haas Formula 1 team. They are both drivers for the development program. That means an awful lot of simulation work. So the engine driver Arjun Maney walking his way through. Nice slow pace. And this is absolutely every bit as much as the flying lap, an important component of getting those brakes and tyres at the right temperature. Don't want the tyres under temperature. Remember what we heard earlier on after practice, how Camera was really saying that it was easy to switch the tyres on, but easy to lose them. So that is something that a good tyre preparation lap can really help with. Down hard on the brakes, hardest braking point of all, down into turn one. Maney choosing to go slightly earlier than we would normally see. So he's trying another run in the gap tactic. Remember, Arjun Maney is the driver mentored by former Formula One driver Karun Chandhok. Their fathers are old friends, and he's going to be using all of Karun's knowledge about how to handle yourself out of the car, what you should be doing nutrition-wise. And Maney at the moment with a personal best. And that is not only a personal best, oh, he's really fighting it there. Coming out of turn 7, and he was hanging on to it. Is that going to have blown the lap? Can Maney rescue it now? We sort of went to it slightly late, but he was really wrestling the car down the hill to the low point. Now we're level. This is the back straight past the F2 pit lane on his right-hand side. And has he abandoned this lap? Completely different sound from the V6 turbocharged engine. Now climbing up the hill all the time to the highest point on the circuit. Sweeping, nice rhythm, but has that moment in the middle part of the lap cost him? We're about to find out. It has. It's not even a personal best. It's a 44.4, and that is a full 0.4 of a second away from Russell's best ever middle sector of the lap, and Russell is going faster still. 43.9 now for the ART driver. What we heard from ART was they weren't happy with their one-lap pace. Can Maney come across the line? It's not been a perfect lap for him. The Haas Junior driver cuts the beam and improves to 4th position. Russell in the background though. Can Russell cement his grip on provisional pole? Oh, he can, by 0.5 second. That is some lap. Great stuff from George Russell, the Mercedes Junior, delivering. He's won pretty early in previous championships, but this was the mistake that removed Maney. Oh, he was all over the wheel. Oh, he really did well to hold on to it, but it was a mistake that blew the lap. That's how much commitment you need in Formula 2, and the grip just wasn't there. We're on board with Nick de Vries, front row starter last year. Let's have a little look at his lap times. 32.4 is 0.2 away from the ultimate pace in the first sector, 0.5 second away in the middle part of the lap from what Russell has been able to do. The theory is when you get rookies in the car that the rookies are going to need a while to work out the tyres. So it might not be a problem tomorrow in the race, but de Vries is so annoyed with the lap that he's posted. He's abandoned it entirely. Gunter across the line, he was fastest around here in testing, and he's now onto the front row. So an all-rookie front row with Russell and Gunter. This really looking like an impressive start to the season for two drivers who we expected to come in. But as you see, 0.5 second between Russell and Gunter, and Nicholas Latifi, who is a race winner as well, remember, last year with the Silverstone Sprint, needs a big lap to get himself further up the order. Remember, he was one of the drivers last year who was so impressive. Now, what can Russell's teammate Aitken do? Russell, a Mercedes junior driver, Aitken, a Renault junior driver, and he's trying to get on terms. Personal best in the middle part of the lap. He's gone slightly wide through 14. That is a corner that if you go wide on the exit, it doesn't cost you as much. He's got cars in front of him as well. Maney just needs to keep there. This is a compromised lap though for Jack Aitken. Not what he needed, not what you need when there's 0.5 second between first and second, when you're looking to try and have that step. Can ART get themselves onto the front row entirely? Aitken gets himself onto the front row, displaces Gunther, and it's an ART 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2, a rookie 1, 2, 3. If you look at it at the moment, Albon in 4th position, going very nicely as well. He has looked comfortable from the start. Great lap from Aitken, but he will know there was more pace there because he had a slightly understeering moment into turn 14. And these cars really proving a handful as Maney makes his way back to the pits. So Trident received their driver, and now we have Sergio Sette Camara absolutely in this battle for pole position. Make no mistake about that. He's just put in a personal best. It's a few tenths of a second away from what his teammate has managed to do, but he can claw it back if he's gone for the setup in the middle part of the lap to be rewarded right now. Looks neat, looks tidy. A 141 is slightly behind what we had last year, which is 138.9, but these cars are looking fantastic under the lights. And Camara doesn't care about that one bit at the moment. He'll care about the car in the way. which is Ferrucci, who's about to start a lap. Cameron now needs to go as late as he dare into the 15th and final corner. Can he get himself up from 5th in the order where he is at the moment with 7 minutes to go in this session? Personal best in the middle sector, and he gets himself onto the front row. Really impressive. Not the fastest driver in any sector of the lap, but overall it's good enough for P2. The Brazilian driver delivering, and that is going to be really interesting to see if Norris can come and challenge further. Really great to see so many different teams in contention. But at the moment, it's Russell who has laid down a marker in a big way. The theory goes that rookies take a while to work out this Pirelli rubber. Remember, he was running Pirelli rubber last time. That's something Norris wasn't, because they run different tyres in Formula 3. But a mega lap from George Russell, born in Kings Lynn, and at the moment he is looking the master of this circuit. But what does Lando Norris have to say about it? Sitting in 7th position at the moment, he's on a tyre preparation lap as we come to him, and he's been running in the McLaren simulator. Said he dedicated a 5th of his time in the McLaren simulator to learning this track. And Max Günther going very nicely at the moment, 4th position for him. That'd be incredibly encouraging for the Arden team. Bright yellow last year, bright pink this. You cannot miss the Arden team. And Günther, who raced against Lance Stroll, he has decided that that is as good as he can manage. And that's what happens when you run in the gap. So we've seen different versions of the gap. In years gone by, if you were really struggling, you would run in the gap because it was a clear track and that's the only way you were going to move up the grid. Now, though, it's become sort of, it's not just the gap at any point, it's the gap. There's an early gap, there's a late gap, and now there's this, the final run as we go into the final 5 of this first qualifying session of the season. Lando Norris is into turn 1, nice and tidy through there. Turn 2 immediately turns into 3, but you've got to hang on to it, and this is a really crucial corner on this racetrack. How wide is he going to go through turn number 4? How early does he get on the power? Braking nice and late, looks really put together at the moment. Albon on a really quick lap as well, but we are focusing on Norris for the moment. He's improved, Albon's improved. At the moment, it's Norris with the fastest first sector of anyone. He's been strong here all the way through the weekend. It's the next 2, though, that are going to define whether he can take pole position away from his countryman, George Russell. Further up the road, Alexander Albon, tipped by our champion last year, Charles Leclerc, to be a major factor in 2018. He's looking a major factor for pole position. He really is pushing every inch of this racetrack, and he's going nicely now. This is where it turns different, though. This is where it becomes fast and sweeping, and the hard stops don't really come until the final part of the lap. Albon just 8 thousandths down now, so it's how much is he going to risk, and he was leaving nothing on the table now. Albon over the crest of the hill, dropping down, but is he dropping down to pole position? Norris is going even faster behind. Norris is the fastest man in the first and second sectors, but can Albon put the pressure on? Getting onto the front row, can he put the pressure on Norris? Can he put it on Russell? Here comes Alexander Albon over the line, and he's gone second by 27 hundredths, and in the background, Norris went wide again. Has that blown pole? No! Unbelievable! Lando Norris has gone wide, but somehow kept his foot to the floor. The fastest man in the first 2 sectors of the lap, and he somehow survives that mistake to take provisional pole with 3 minutes to go. He must have thought at this moment in time that he'd blown it. Exactly what he did on his first run, but this time, foot to the floor. Did he get away with it? Yes, he did. Just see, you get railroaded on that curb on the left-hand side, but he just kept it nailed through that final corner. He's taken provisional pole. Now, anyone improving at the moment? Makino's going very nicely, personal best also from Giotto. He's improving. Russell has it taken away. I hate to say this out loud, but is there a question of going off the track and setting that time? Something for the stewards to look at the end, but hardly anything between them. A battle of the Brits at the front. Norris, Russell, Albon, Delatraz up to 4th out of absolutely nowhere. Personal best in all 3 sectors of the lap. He's gone from 6th after the first run up to 4th. Great lap by Louis Delatraz for the new team. At the moment, Delatraz taking Charouz to a 4th place on debut, and Carlin, with their first ever F2 race, look to have secured pole position unless we see something really extraordinary. There's Delatraz, we're just catching him now. That is a super lap. Remember, his personal best last year was 3rd, but aside from that 3rd, he hadn't troubled the top 10 for the rest of the campaign. Car off the road there. He's not off the road, he's just going very slowly. That's Luca Giotto in the Campos, and he brings it home with the clock ticking down very nicely indeed. Anyone else improving at the moment? Markelov's on a personal best. And up to 6th goes Nairei Fukuzumi on debut. Super time, really super time for the Japanese driver, part of the Honda program. Racing for Arden, off the road, Artem Markelov's session really summed up as we cut to him, flailing off the road there, but that doesn't mean that he won't post a fast time. But it's only 15th position, it's not what he needed. And that is not what we expected from the champion team of last year, of course. There's a reason they got #1 on the car, but now running this new Dallara Belt car, it's not working for them at the moment. Surely no one has anything left. This was Markelov in the final corner. Surely frustrated with how his day has gone. Went far wider and just had to get out of the throttle. That final corner really catching everyone out in the session. It's called out Markelov, it's called out Norris, it's called out Russell, but Norris has managed to dance around that problem of not being on the racetrack in the final corner, and Lando Norris, well, an all-rookie front row. Albon looking well placed in 3rd, but such impressive stuff from 2 of the drivers talked up for the title, and they have delivered under the lights. Albon tipped by Leclerc, and you can see why. 3 drivers separated by 1/10 of a second. And De Vries has got himself up to 4th. Nick De Vries at the very end struggled in the middle part of the session. Nick De Vries there, a mega final sector of the lap. That was an astonishing time from the young Dutch driver, and he's managed to get himself into 4th. Remember, he starts tomorrow with a year's more experience on these tyres than the front row ahead of him. So that is such an important lap for Prema, because it has not looked quick at all at any point as Nairei Fukuzumi comes back over the line. So frustrating session, real contrast between the drivers that have been tipped to be involved in the championship hunt and what happened to Artem Markelov, who finds himself way down, and that is super disappointing at the moment. We see this when we have new cars introduced, that it really does level the playing field, and a disappointing day. A new team on top with a rookie driver. Lando Norris has secured pole position for the first race of 2018. And doesn't he look delighted with it? Well, he might be. Must have thought he'd blown it at the final corner, but they've invented a new line through turn 15. If you can't get it turned in, just put your foot to the floor. Spectacular. And pole position. 4 points for him. Remember, they're all going to be so crucial this year with so many talented drivers in the field who can win. You can see the McLaren logo there just behind. And the team principal says congratulations. There's the checkered flag. But it was decided 3 minutes ago with a barnstorming lap. Louis Delatraz in the end then knocked down to 5th, but he will be delighted to get himself into the top 10. It's not exactly cool and calm. It never can be here in Bahrain, but that was impressive indeed from Louis Delatraz. But what a contrasting session for Artem Markelov. So impressive last year. Only twice was he out of the top 10, but that's exactly how his season starts in 2018. You can see more detail on the steering wheel this year, but he won't want to hear any details. He can be very cool out of the car, but when it doesn't go his way, that dry sense of humor that he is so famed for, I don't think it's going to be around much tonight. The American Santino Ferrucci knows he's got a little bit of work to do, and he's telling us exactly. It's what I love about Santino. You're never left in any doubt how he feels. Shake of the hand, not too sure. He's got some pace to find, in respect to his teammate in the end. Arjun Maini falling all the way down to 14th. What will frustrate Trident is there's clearly pace in that car, and they know how to make it work. So Norris just waiting for the instruction to head back round to the support race pits. Already attracting the snappers. I don't think that's going to be the last time this year. We've had a lot of really special drivers at this tier of competition in the last few years. Stoffel Van Dorn, we've had Pierre Gasly, Antonio Giovinazzi. Last year, Charles Leclerc raised the bar even further, but Lando Norris seems to definitely belong, and he's justified the hype with pole position. A 1:41.7, the final time in the end. Maini will know that there is really, really quick pace to be extracted from that Trident. Confirmation of the 30-minute qualifying session, an all-Brit front row, an all-rookie front row. Lando Norris just ahead of George Russell. Then came Albon, De Vries, the second-year returnees. Louis Delatraz, really, really impressive. His second best ever performance in qualifying for Formula 2. Then Camara, Fukuzumi, Tadasuke Makino. His teammate is struggling, but that's really impressive in the Russian time in 8th. And then Jack Aitken, 9th. Gunter was in 10th position. Antonio Fuoco was 11th, Luca Giotto 12th, Merry, so much experience for Roberto Merry, but only 13th. Maini's mistakes cost him, he finishes in 14th. Then Latifi, so much experience for him as well. Similar session to Markelov. Then Boschon, Markelov, Santino Ferrucci, Chungaleo. 20th for Campos was Roy Nissany. 1 second covering 1st to 17th. So that is so impressive for a first session of the season. In 3rd place, we've got Alexander Albon, but he's got 2 rookies ahead of him. We've got Russell, and starting the first race of the season from pole position. Are they going to be able to turn that 1-lap pace into a race win? Join us tomorrow to find out. Lando Norris goes from pole when Formula 2 returns.
Congratulations, what a way to kick off the season, your maiden pole in F2. Talk us through it. Because you did run wide.
It was a difficult one because I messed up my first lap pretty badly. I went wide in turn 8 and the last corner, but I was only 2/10 off, so I felt confident I can, at least improve those 2 or 3 tenths. But then there's a bit of a gust of wind and some sand went on track, so we were going to go in the gap and in the middle. But then we waited for the last few minutes, basically. Hoping the track would clear up a bit and maybe go a bit faster. And then George did a 41.7 or 8. So then I was a bit more nervous because I knew I had to improve a fairly big chunk. And then, my lap went pretty well all the way to the last corner. Then I just got a bit eager. I saw I was up in the first sector and second sector. And I got a bit eager in the last sector, last corner, and ran wide and lost a fair bit of time. It was annoying because it was a good lap until then. And I'm not the happiest guy when I don't do well.
George mentioned that Charlie had talked about track limits. Have you heard anything about that, running wide on the last turn?
Not specifically in the last turn, I mean everywhere.
But anything after you have run wide?
Yeah, especially when I run wide. No, I think they said he's watching track limits, especially when you go off and gain an advantage. And I think it was pretty clear I didn't gain any advantage by doing so. I was sideways and everything, and I think everyone knows that if you go off, you lose there, because I bottomed out over the curb, ran on the Astro, had a big oversteer, and it's just not the nicest of drives basically out the corner. So I lost time for sure, and there's no advantage on what I did. I think, I just would have been happier beating them by more if I stayed on, basically.
So finally, the question is, how much more have you got in the tank, Lando?
Well, Sector 1 and Sector 2 went pretty well. A few bits here and there where I could have improved, but I was reasonably happy. It wasn't perfect. I would say maybe a 1/10 and a half, because I did exactly the same in run 1, but I did a second push on that on the first run, basically. So when I did my final sector on my second lap, I improved compared to my first lap, and that was just because I stayed on the track basically and gained an advantage from staying on. So I knew that, it was the same when I lost time. So maybe a couple of tenths or a 10th or something is a bit hard to say.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you in race action tomorrow. Thanks, Lando.
Thank you.
George, P2, talk me through the struggles. Were you almost certain you had pole at one point?
Well, obviously running in the middle of the session, you're going to jump ahead of everyone else, and then who knows what everyone else is going to do. But to be honest, I was very satisfied with P2. We're currently struggling a bit with our engine power, and there's nothing we can do this weekend, and hoping to resolve it after the weekend. So I think anything inside the top 3 was a massive bonus considering. So pleased with that, but who knows? I think Norris improved this last sector and went wide on the last corner. So as Charlie said in the briefing, if you run over the track limits, you will be getting your lap deleted. So who knows? Pole could still be ours. Could still be. Okay, so you're living in hope. Yeah, exactly. But either way, it's a long race, and P2 is a good place to start. If not.
Thanks very much, George.
Cheers.
And you're Alex, we like to call you, yeah? Not, yeah. Alexander, what do you prefer?
Alex is good.
Perfect. I've got no comms now. You've got no. Alex, congratulations, 3rd on the grid for tomorrow. How was that session for you? And talk us through these heavier cars.
Yeah, a good session to be honest. Considering where we were in practice 2 weeks ago, we made a really big step. I think before we were maybe 7/10 off the pace. And the team did an amazing job, and we've really improved the car that side. Normally I'd say our car's a bit stronger in the race. I don't want to jinx it, but it's normally better in the race compared to qualifying. So should be good. Heavy cars, the rear's moving all the time, and it's a proper beast to drive, but I enjoy it.
It sounds like you're puffing because of having been out in the car, but actually you've just run the length of the pit lane, so I'm sorry for making you run so far.
I was half dressed. I think I got caught in my boxes, and I've just got changed and went up here.
Well, I'm glad you're all fully clothed now. Plans for tomorrow then, what can we expect in that first race?
We'll see. I think our race pace is, as I said before, it's most probably stronger than our qualifying pace. I'm there for the win, but we'll see.
Well, good luck. We look forward to watching. Thank you.
Thank you.